Hello and welcome. My name is Jeff Heiler, and I will be demonstrating reporting with the Industrial Defender platform. Reports in Industrial Defender Central Manager are pretty straightforward, but before I demonstrate reporting capabilities, I'd like to give you guys a bit of context of our data collection methodology. With Industrial Defender platform, we have a number of ways in which we discover assets and collect data. Because we have a number of different discovery methods, we're able to help clients in a way that others in the space aren't able to do. This is simply to provide the appropriate discovery method for the appropriate risk tolerance for any given, say, network level within a client's environment, as opposed to simply just using passive methods, for example. Discovery methods include, of course, passive monitoring and discovery. This primarily leverages span traffic. And because we're able to ingest span traffic, this also allows our platform to run IDS services as well. We also have agentless and native polling. So this would include syslog, SNMP, SSH, WMI, WinRM, and then also includes industrial protocol native querying. Also have direct database querying and manual file ingestion. And lastly, agents. So our agents are developed completely in-house, and they have more capabilities over remote methods such as WMI or WinRM. To list a few, scanning directories for permission changes, scanning application logs, detecting removable media, USB activity, etc. And since our agents are completely developed in-house, we also have the ability to tune performance. So filtering or ignoring data locally before it's sent over the wire, and of course limiting CPU, RAM, network bandwidth, and say capping it on under 1%, for example. A quick highlight here of where you could port your data to via API. We've had a lot of experience with integrating with SIMs, SOCs, ticketing systems, aggregate services, etc. So our team will work closely with our clients to ensure integration is as seamless as possible. I'd like to transition to our demo environment and to bring us to our asset administration page. Start off by giving you some context of the quality of data that we collect in our platform. This is the asset administration tab in our central manager. Essentially, when you've decided to manage assets, they'll appear here. There are a number of fields that are populated out of the box from our discovery methods. And then there are a number of fields in which need to be added manually to give each asset more context to what it is. This could be information about criticality, um, admin for the asset, contact information for that admin. We could also add more context to location or zone. Really anything that a client needs. We could even add extra fields. So maybe something along the lines of service notes that get passed on through the ticketing system. This could be notes telling your support services never ever reboot this box, for example. So now I'll show you a few specific assets. Let's take a look at this 1756 PLC from Rockwell. This first tab here illustrates the asset details. And if I arrange this by property name, we could see there's a few interface cards here. We see it's a Rockwell PLC. We have some information about its serial number, revision, software. We could see that the key mode switches in remote. And then a little bit more information about the software and revision as well on the software tab. Back to the asset administration tab. So I know that there is a Windows HMI in this environment as well. So we'll take a look at that. Similarly, on this first tab, we have asset details. For Windows system, this is simply any information about the operating system. And these would be fields you might typically care about for managing in a GPO or policy, such as DNS, gateway, password complexity, length, etc. This tab for software, you get an idea of the level of detail we collect on the software information. So we know this is an HMI. It's got FTView installed and a number of different versions for each piece of the software in there, which is installed. So your Microsoft and/or software patches will show up here. Ports and services, firewall rules. So this would typically be the local firewall on your Windows system. Information about user accounts, device interfaces, display files. So touched on this a little bit when we talked about agents. This could be a particular file or directory that you want to manage on that asset, and that would typically show up in that field there. Seen a little bit of the detail of data that we collect for the asset. Let's take a look at the baseline for this particular Windows HMI. So all those fields that I showed you earlier, you could get a better idea of what can actually be baselined, right? So those same fields that we saw on the detail page, each one of those can be baselined, right? So we were looking at operating system first, or GPO type fields. They would show up here, and you would list those requirements here. You can even do that for software, patches, ports and services, firewall, etc. Now that we've had a brief tour of the quality data within our platform, let's explore some of the reporting capabilities. Foundational control categories such as asset, configuration, patch and vulnerability, and so on are pre-built. Similarly, compliance frameworks and standards reports are ready to be leveraged by whatever an asset owner deems suitable for their environment. Reports can be saved in Word, Excel, PDF, CSVs, XML, and they can also be scheduled and generated and forwarded via email or transferred into a network directory. And lastly, they can be password and encrypted. So let's take a look at generating some specific reports based on the assets we have in our lab environment. Let's take a look at some compliance ones. So let's say you care about NERC SIP, to R2, and just do a typical asset inventory. Now this will take you to a different screen here where you can select the asset groups. In this case, I'm just going to select everything in the environment, locations, and then we'll generate the report. So a report goes by location, some more location context, the asset name, the type, criticality, and then if you normally populate this for all your assets, you see a description as well. Let's generate another report, something a little more practical. So we'll go to configuration and we'll do asset alerts over time. So bring us to that field selection report. So I want to try to look at a USB activity. So we'll select all of our assets, even though we know not everything in the environment will have USB devices, but we have a pretty small sample set, so we'll just select everything. Category, we're going to uncheck everything, and we're going to hunt for removable media. Removable media change. And Just so that we have some information here, let's just take it back like a whole month. Our metrics, we want to care about media changes. Generate the report. So in this case, in our demo lab environment, we have virtual machines. So within that time frame, only this AV demo asset came up with some activity. I believe one of my colleagues updated something within this particular VM and gave us a couple entries here. One last report, and we'll highlight our custom reporting capabilities. So we had a particular client in the UAE, and they had a very particular way they wanted their reports generated. So let's take a look at one of those reports to give you an idea of how customizable this platform is for reporting. Use this asset inventory and owners report. We'll have just one field in this case for all the assets, and then we'll generate the report. A little bit different of a view here. This particular client wanted to have some visualization included with their asset inventory to be formatted in a particular way. So we have owner of organization, asset name, bit of description, some more context of the data like the IP, OS type, criticality, etc. Bottom line, our teams will work closely with the organization to make sure the reports are generated to your specific needs. That concludes this particular demo for reporting for Industrial Defender Central Manager.